Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the OTT.X Wednesday webinar series. I'm Eric Hansen. On behalf of the entire team at OTT.X, I want to thank you all for joining us this morning to the series where we bring you insightful, thought-provoking presentations across a broad spectrum of OTT-related topics from thought leaders across our industry. Today, we're very fortunate to have with us two executives from Amdocs, Lior Friedman and Terence Carvalho. Lior leads global business development for Amdocs Media. For the past 20 years, he's held various roles in the media world, both on and off screen, from being a TV news anchor to building and managing Israel's fastest growing OTT service, Partner TV. Terence is responsible for developing technology solutions for the Amdocs Media business. He specializes in helping operators monetize OTT services and expanding the reach of OTT service providers. I know we're all looking forward to their presentation entitled The Dawn of the Super Aggregator, which will explore how services can gain the competitive edge by implementing tools enabling consumers to manage a growing variety of services in one centralized location. But first, we also want to thank Amdocs for participating in our webinar series today. Amdocs have been great supporters of OTT.X, including many of our events and as active members of discussion sessions and working groups. So with that, I'll turn it over to Lior and Terence from Amdocs. Gentlemen, welcome.
Thanks, Eric. Thank you, everyone at the OTT.X team, and thanks for having us. Hello, Terence.
Hey, Lior, how are you doing? And thank you, Eric.
Hey, everyone. Hello from London and the UK, where Terence and I are in. But we are here to talk about something that is quite a global phenomena, and actually quite a big task ahead of us, Terence. We have quite a title here and quite a promise to talk about the dawn of the super aggregator. So we'll try and meet that challenge in the next in the next hour or so. But first, if you don't mind, maybe some trivia for us all. Can you guess what was the most popular destination of 2020?
So my son wanted to know if I was going to watch Lion King, and that says Africa for me. I want to do a safari in Africa.
Right. Okay. So obviously, we'd all love that, and we would love that to be the most popular destination of 2020. Nor is it Seychelles or Mauritius or anything like that. Actually, if we talk about our industry, I would say the most popular destinations of 2020 were two places. One of them, HDMI 1. Whoever dominates that dominates the living room experience, dominates the home, and this became ever more important during the pandemic, and is becoming more and more important. There are more and more strongholds coming into the home, and this is expanding way beyond media. The other one, what we call C2T, right? Closest to thumb. What is the app that is closest to your thumb when you turn on your mobile phone, right? The one place that is the service that you need the most when you turn on your phone. And I will argue that both of these strongholds have not yet been fully conquered, and both present an opportunity for new players and enter what we call the super aggregators, right? The entities that facilitate your media experience, where you juggle, pay, subscribe, play, watch, engage between different services, all in one place in an easy way. So in a sense, this is goodbye to the age of exclusivity and hello to the age of simplicity.
Wonderful. Thanks, Lior. So, well, I mean, people have been and companies have been aggregating services for some time now, right? And Omdia published a report comparing the revenues and subscriptions of media services in 2017 with those in 2020 in the US. So there's a decline, unsurprisingly, in pure pay TV subscriptions and revenues, but significantly, there's been a $20 billion increase in OTT direct-to-consumer revenues. But this is only the tip of the iceberg. Right? We see a seismic shift in that part of the market with aggregation and bundling of digital services with traditional pay TV. So the OTTs need the reach of the large operators and aggregators to scale quickly. And operators, on the other hand, see the value of consolidating these new digital services into a bundle with their traditional telco services. And this is to relieve pressure on declining pay TV ARPUs. And today, for every one pure pay TV subscription, there are 3 OTT subscriptions. And this is for content only. So the need to partner and aggregate these OTT services is of course evident. And I'll take you through a few examples of aggregators doing this very well today. So starting with Telstra in Australia, right? So the hallmarks of a great aggregator today are those that give their subscribers the freedom to choose an OTT service and tailor packages all under one bill. So Telstra uses home broadband as their anchor service, right? And they allow subscribers to add and change services in their bill. No more bundles that are tightly coupled to the anchor service. And similarly, in Denmark, TDC gives their customers the choice of adding streaming services to their base pay TV service through an easy points-based system. So these are some examples of aggregators who have adopted these best practices of flexible and dynamic bundling and pricing, offering customers trials and targeted promotions, and also a convenience to pay on their bill or through the payment method of their choice. And these traits, another trait of a successful aggregator is the frictionless onboarding of a new service and allowing customers to easily discover and purchase bundles. And this isn't seamless when subscribers have multiple credentials to each of the various services they've signed up to. Liberty in Latin America launched Flow ID. So that's their OTT brand with one identity, right, through which subscribers could access telco and OTT services. But not only is the discovery and consumption made simple through a single click, but with the Flow ID, customers are able to selectively share services within a household.
Okay, now it's morning on the West Coast, but it's very much dinner time, almost dinner time here in the UK, and I'm gonna regret this next slide. But we're actually going to talk about how the super aggregators apply this kind of aggregation method and what you talked about, Terence, actually to other services that expand way beyond media. And what we want to talk about here is actually a partnership that actually my former employer, Partner TV in Israel, who is also an Amdocs Media and a Ubiquity customer, has deployed. And we've done that during the World Cup of 2018, where essentially we've introduced not just an aggregation of a media service, but also of let's call it a commerce-based platform. And what is better suiting to a media platform, especially during the Soccer World Cup of 2018, than actually ordering pizza. And we've partnered together with Domino's Pizza in Israel to develop a first for TV experience where you can actually order pizza 30 minutes before a soccer match. So here's what's happening, right? So before the soccer match, you would get a pop-up on the top left side of the screen telling you click OK on your remote now. This is the remote. You would click OK on the remote. And actually what would happen afterwards is when you click on the remote, it launches a first for TV experience that we have developed together with Domino's in Israel, where you are going all the way from creating the awareness to the product to customizing it. And we can actually start building our own pizza, getting toppings being thrown on top of it. So a full gamification of that pizza ordering process, all through the remote control being done on the TV, perfectly complementary to what you can do on the actual media service, right? So right exactly when you're watching the soccer match or a sports match, and paired with a great marketing offer coming in from a partner. So creating that full awareness from creating the awareness to the offer from the customer, all the way to converting them to a paying customer, whether it's through the operator bill, like in this case, or whether they want to pay through a credit card or any other method of payment that they want. And on top of that, what we've done together is actually created an added value of doing a 360 marketing of branding all of the pizza boxes sold in Israel during the World Cup, not just the ones ordered through Partner TV, but actually getting this new kind of differentiation out and shouting out loud that you can now order pizza from your Partner TV remote. So we talked about differentiation, not via any exclusive content, because that's pretty much available to everyone right now, but about user experience, seamless experience on how you can get these two brands connected together and do that with a seamless and easy experience, getting pizza through your TV device.
You know, Lior, while I've been stuffing myself with pizza, right? I mean, other people have been using this this time at home, right, to learn new skills, right? And the stay-at-home economy has accelerated the bundling of OTTs other than content and entertainment. E-learning partnerships and retail partnerships have skyrocketed as operators aggregate these services into their bundle offerings. And the race for these successful subscription bundling scenarios is already on, and we expect it to accelerate even further this year, while so many of us are staying indoors. And with so many services still being launched or yet to reach maturity, we see that the need for speed and simplification of the OTT integration into the aggregator has to happen, and has to happen very, very soon.
Yeah, and we see things like Zoom that we use all the time now that have become such a big part of our life. Yeah, and we're talking about this evolution of the digital services, right? And it's not just in the method of delivery, right? It's not just about moving from analog to digital, or from print to online publication, or from video to OTT, or music streaming. It's also a completely different shift in the business models, right? So you can see this pretty much running across the board with each of these industries: gaming, gym membership, that it went from actually going to a local gym or paying for a Zumba class, all the way to a Peloton or a Mirror subscription, right? Banking are turning digital and are charging you a subscription to give you all the added financial-based services that you want to get as a service. Food delivery apps are charging us a subscription to get us food delivered to our home as much as we want during the day. And we're getting into other areas where a subscription-based economy is taking over, even in things like transport and health and even education. And with that, I'm going to actually make one of my personal dreams come true. I'm going to turn it over to a person that I enjoy listening to very much, and I think what he talks about resonates very much with this notion of super aggregation, and actually super aggregation at home. How the world is hitting the home button. And here's Scott Galloway.
The best doctor's office in the world is the exact same location as the best theater in the world, your living room, right, or your kitchen. Think about the fact that 99% of the people who contracted, endured, and developed the antibodies for the novel coronavirus didn't enter a doctor's office, much less a hospital. It's all moving to the home.
Professor Galloway, I should say. So this is a check on one of my dreams to go to Professor Scott Galloway and to listen to him talk about it. But I think he really hits it home, right? Talks about how home is becoming such a central experience to us, and the best theater in the world is our living room. It can be the doctor's office. It can be the center for a lot of different actions that we've only recently discovered that we can do through our living room device, through our laptop, through our study, through the various screens that we have throughout the homes, through the voice assistants that we have at home. All of a sudden, this creates a whole new opportunity for us to turn that into something that new players can come in and capture some of that value. And circling back to what we've talked about before, about, for example, dominating HDMI 1, being at the center of the home. And if super aggregators are talking about simplicity, I will argue super aggregators is the buzzword of 2020, maybe apart from coronavirus and sweatpants. But if we are looking towards 2021 and onwards, I would actually go further and say, let's talk about super apps and the notion of control, not just giving simplicity to the user, but also giving them a sense of control. What do I mean? Control your expenses, control what services you want to be exposed to, control privacy and what data you want to share, control your smart home, right? If you want to open the front door, maybe you do that with your remote control button in the home. all of this technology is currently enabling. It's just aggregating this all into one service, into one app, the super apps of the future. This is like the buzzword of 2021 and onwards. And with that, we have a lot more to talk about, but happy to open it to the floor for some questions, Eric.
Fantastic. This is super cool. Yeah, I've got a lot of things on my mind as you're talking through this stuff. Also want to invite our attendees, go ahead and drop some questions in the Q&A bin. You can also put them in the chat if you want. Let us know what's on your mind. It's interesting how, in order to make this work, the super aggregator and ordering pizza from your TV, how important the interface is. I mean, and we're just starting to see this actually happening. When we first started using televisions to interact with, it was like, I remember using my Xbox and I had like the little arrow buttons and I'd push A to select a letter, and you're just cursing through all the letters on a keyboard. And that was the way we did it. And, not surprisingly, there wasn't a lot of uptake in it. People weren't that, you could only do so much with it. So, I mean, I think it's pretty cool if you think about it. The TV is the most prominent, large, generally screen in the house, and yet we're still spending so much of our time transacting on these tiny little boxes. And I think that it's a real natural progression to get much more into a more human kind of interface.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about a lean back experience. When you talk about a TV, you never want to work too hard when you're watching something, and I totally agree with that. I just think that with the technology that we have today, whether you include voice or not, but all of this is kind of a user interface or user experience or an interaction with that screen. And if you are able to turn that into a simple click to buy, click to convert, click to give me some more engagement kind of method, without this being too complicated, then I think you're talking about that interface or that experience becoming something that, instead of a challenge, is actually becoming maybe even a little game, right? So it's something that is actually enticing the user to engage more. Terence, you wanted to say something, sorry.
No, I was just going to point out that we've got a couple of questions already over here.
Yeah, so here's a question. Do you see any company or platform close to becoming a super app?
Terence, you want to take that? I mean, look, I think the definition of who can provide these sets of services to us is expanding, right? So it doesn't, think about which apps you interact with the most these days. Obviously, we had the original, call it the telcos or the cable or the pay TV operators that are the natural fit to have that. They have the billing relationship. They're associated with getting us the data and the media into our home. But more and more, we engage with other apps as well, right? We have, I don't want to mention any specific name because there are generic names today for a transport app, right? When I want to leave the home, I'm going to a specific app if I want to get a cab or if I want to get a ride-hailing kind of solution, if I want to get a scooter or anything like that. There's my choice of that service that I go to. They can also become an aggregator for me while I'm mobilizing myself from one place to another. Hospitality is another way, right? If I'm going to stay at an Airbnb, maybe that's another way where they could offer me an additional set of services while I'm there. But also things around food and everything. And I am a big believer in finance and digital banks being a real kind of a new way for us to interact and to be more comfortable with our money. And I think if they're in that position, they can also introduce these new services and more engaging services to us in a much more interesting way. There are things that are happening in Europe and in other places around the world with digital banks that I think can definitely make it a much more, let's call it cool and relaxing experience rather than a boring transactional one.
Yeah, if I can add to that, Lior, traditionally it's always been the company that owned the billing relationship that would aggregate services. But today with direct to consumer, right, all of the D2C services have a billing relationship with the end user, right? So technology has leveled that playing field completely. Right? Today a D2C can go and become an aggregator of services across different verticals. Right? I mean, take Amazon, Amazon Prime Video as an example. Right? They're aggregating other OTT services, right? Media streaming services under their Amazon umbrella. You can go and buy them separately. So that's a great example of a D2C service that's become an aggregator, right? We all have the traditional the operator services. It's such a fluid market with technology that it's really anybody's game right now.
Hey, we have a question from one of our attendees who actually has raised their hand, and I'm going to take that to mean that they want to take the microphone. And so I want to welcome Melissa Roth. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We'd love to hear your question. Melissa, it looks like your microphone is muted. If you don't want to ask a question, oh, there we go. Hate to put you on the spot.
Oh, sorry, I have an unstable internet connection, so I haven't been able to hear a lot of what you've been saying. Hello.
You're sounding great. Did you have a question?
Yeah, if we could go back to what you were talking about in terms of the, I think like TV time and some of those apps are also part of this. And I was wondering if you could talk about, yeah, what the developments are in terms of sort of aggregating all of the different Just Watch, TV Time, those kind of apps and how they might work together.
You mean with regards to universally figuring out where the next episode of show X is and kind of not knowing where everything is? I think that's kind of I would call it the arbitrage of information that we currently have in the media age, right? So it's a very good question. I don't think any company has kind of nailed this with regards to a user experience, but I do think whichever company does nail it, and I think there are definitely some companies that are kind of better positioned to do this, Google being one of them. But whichever company nails it in the best way and is able to connect that to discover, engage, or subscribe, then engage functionality will probably have a massive lead in this space. I do think this is very much like what Terence said before. This is still very much up for grabs, and I think that the fragmentation in the space with new services, direct-to-consumer services, every day this new service popping up creates this complexity to the end consumer that is kind of begging for someone to come in and just put an order into this mess and just give me what I just want to watch my next favorite show. And we actually have a slide about that. So that means it's an excellent question.
Yes, I think Roku might be another one because of Roku and Fire and I guess Chromecast.
Yeah, so hardware, and I think this relates to the HDMI 1 part. I think hardware is where you're able to kind of be the master of the domain and the gatekeeper to them all. And just direct people wherever you want them to go. And people do need direction these days because everybody's getting lost in this ocean of information.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Melissa.
It's a mystery as to why they haven't gotten into the commerce platform part of it. Why we can't order from Roku, Fire TV. Are you aware of any developments on that front where? I know it's been talked about for years, shoppable TV. There's a lot of startups in that space, but we still can't seem to do commerce TV with our Rokus, even though they obviously are ad supported as well.
It's a good question. First of all, you're happy to direct anyone you want to us. We have a good solution for that. So you're happy to direct them to us. But more seriously, I can tell you that the pizza example that we showed with Domino's, which is still running on Partner TV, right? It's a small country, but it's quite a dominant service, right? So think about like 15% market share and growing in 3 years. When we launched this thing, Partner at the time had 100,000 subscribers. In the first 6 months, there were 100,000 transactions on the Domino's Pizza app. So the conversion rate is very high. So I don't think there is, I think the customers or consumers are ready for it. I think they need it. And I think they can grasp the fact that you're not only consuming things. We've already made the transition from offline to digital. I think having that transition from digital to living room is not such a big step. Yeah, you wanted to say something, Terence?
No, it's just a matter of time, really, before we have, the monetization and the commerce platform, being more ubiquitous across all our televisions and more, right? We're already seeing trends in technology that are enabling this without naming, specific, technologies and vendors, but it's all converging together to make it happen. And, it's just a matter of time before we see an explosion in this, and it's important to understand how to do this well.
All right, with that, I think I love this great conversation. I want to turn it back over to Lior and Terence to continue on your presentation. We'll probably have some time for some more questions later on.
Cool. Terence, put on your sports sneakers.
All righty. All righty. So, well, 3 different sizes, right? No one size fits all bundle today, right? Users want that personalization. We've just spoken about it a few seconds back, right? They've become used to that personalization in every sphere of their lives, right? I want my playlist while I'm sipping my coffee, watching my sports team. That hyper personalization is driven by analytics and deep insights to offer that user a subscription bundle that is tailored to that unique individual. It's not something that you just go and that's on the shelf, right? And it's one size fits all for every single customer. Users will gravitate to the provider who gives them all the services that user wants in one place with that seamless lean back experience, right? Entertainment, sports, health, transport, groceries. Why can't I have one subscription through an aggregator with an itemization of each service, right? That's what we're all looking for today. And today, we're all overwhelmed, right, with the multiple credentials that I spoke about earlier for each service, multiple payment methods, different consent rules. The aggregator here can play a role in delivering that value and convenience to the user. If only that user could access all of these services they wanted through the aggregator under one single login, one single bill, that would truly be a great thing, right? And the aggregator needs to engage with every user of the service in the household and not just the bill payer, right? This creates that added stickiness of having several people in the house vested in the aggregator's services. And we need to give users an easy way to discover new services and then a frictionless sign up to that over-the-top service. And the flexibility to choose services within the aggregator bundle is a very attractive offering, as is the ability to associate a private subscription account into the operator bundle, right? I mean, if I have a subscription with a particular digital service, can I port that into my operator bundle and have everything under one identity and one bill? And these frictionless user journeys require managing a common set of consents and a single approach, a single sign-on approach for every partner service. And it's not just traditional pay TV business looking at partnerships, of course, right? I mean, there've been a couple of questions there specifically around operators, but those walls are crumbling, right? We see service providers across verticals around the world building different approaches here, right? Some use bundles as a retention strategy to keep existing customers or as an acquisition tool, while others are looking at the revenue growth opportunities that present themselves with subscription bundling and looking to evolve ahead of the crowd. But unfortunately, the approach today is not very scalable, right? You've got point-to-point integrations for every aggregator partnership, right? clunky and duplicative user journeys to activate a new service. All of this is done ad hoc. You bring a new service, there's one more point integration. You bring a new service, there's one more user journey flow. And all of this, involve very long and expensive IT projects. Yeah? And at the end of it, there's a very little lack of settlement and reconciliation tools for payment. So these are perhaps some of the barriers, right? I mean, to one of the questions asked earlier about, why isn't why don't we have more commerce platforms in TV services today? There are barriers to this, and we're looking at how these barriers can be dismantled. We need a different approach for a different outcome, right? Lior, if you can move to the next slide, we'll talk about why it's so important for aggregators, partners, and end users to have an understanding of these very three interdependent but discrete life cycles, right? You have the partner life cycle on the left of your screen. And in the partner life cycle, it's all about the settlement and reporting, the introduction and the onboarding of a new partner, the settlement rules. It's something that perhaps our industry has done and done well to an extent for some time. But the user and identity and the subscription life cycles are areas for improvement. With the user and identity life cycle, we talk about that single sign-on experience, being able to engage with every user of the service and not only the person who's paying the bill, being able to capture data, right, for every single individual user, every single individual transaction, and managing those consents and privacy for each user, for each service. And the subscription lifecycle is about maintaining a catalog of all the products you have, something that is dynamic, tailored for each user, being able to do below the line targeted promotions with very specific trials and discounts for that specific individual user, before they sign up to a service, or when they've signed up to a service for a bolt-on. So to summarize now, right? To be successful in this approach, technology has been a great leveler, right, in the aggregation story so far. So almost any enterprise, whether rooted in media or not, has the capability to aggregate services and go direct to the consumer. But merely aggregating services isn't enough. To be successful at aggregating quickly and with disparate service subscriptions, we need to, one, be able to introduce and manage partners at scale. So the economics and market dynamics will definitely not allow for those 6-month-long integration projects, running into several hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions of dollars, for just the one service. Users want the flexibility and convenience, right, of bundles, right? No more restricted bundles. We all want the flexibility to pick and choose and change our bundles dynamically, right, as we progress through that life cycle. Lior, perhaps you want to add to that?
Yeah, sure. So I think if we're getting to the third point, right, the user is at the center, right? You want to give user an experience that is easy, that is compelling, that is something that they will want to engage with, and they will return the favor. The numbers show that, the data shows that. It's about us meeting their needs. This is one thing. Secondly, is constantly stay on the move, right? Introduce new services, succeed in introducing them, fail maybe sometimes, but have the agility and the ability to introduce these new services at scale, get the right data, the right insights, and make sure that when you present the next one, you are smarter, better, stronger, and then this cycle kind of feeds itself and you're able to provide a better service to your users. Essentially, turning what you currently have, your existing assets, whether it's a content asset like we are talking about in our own industry, or if it's commerce-related assets or anything else, turning them into a monetizable feature that the users want to continue and engage with constantly by adding that added layer of data and insights and easy user experience for the user to consume is the way forward to kind of succeed as a super aggregator and ensure that you are able to convert a user into a paying user and a happy user. That's it from us, and happy to continue the discussion, guys.
Thank you. It's super interesting. It's really cool. You bring up some really great points, and I think to all of us, it's pretty exciting to think about a new world where the TV actually becomes so easy to interact with in new ways. And it kind of strikes me that we're maybe at kind of a pivot point to make this possible, similar to in other cases where the user experience and its ability to provide access in new ways really has been pivotal to engagement and adoption. I think back to the iPod when that first came out. I mean, I worked at Microsoft at the time, and we had, you know, devices that were really similar, and you could watch or you could listen to music on them. And they'd been around for a long time. We were working with companies like Creative and the Rio, and we had MP3 players. But there was not that kind of adoption that you got and excitement around listening to music that there was when the iPod came out. And it was all because of that wheel and the interface. And so I think it's really it's just one of those rare opportunities where the user experience will have a profound impact on maybe ultimately who ends up winning in this space. So it's a good time to start thinking about that. With that, I wonder, you mentioned that scale, you know, getting lots and lots of different services on board with your platform is really expensive and has been really hard. That makes me think about the development platform that's underlying these services or the box, you know, if you're developing to it. And I wonder, what do you think about the gaming platforms? Do they maybe have an advantage here because they're developed specifically with that in mind, to have an open, extensible environment for other software developers or content providers to build on top of? So something like Xbox, they have a development language, and PlayStation, and you know, the Xbox is going to be more powerful than most PCs with the introduction of the new console. What are your thoughts on gaming platforms as a potential super aggregator?
Terence, I mean, I think this is exactly where things are going, right? So first of all, I don't think there's going to be one silver bullet. I think there are going to be many of those, right, for different needs. So if I'm a gamer, probably an Xbox or a PlayStation could be probably my super aggregator of choice. If I'm a foodie, maybe it's going to, you know, maybe it will be depending on my needs or on my preferences or on my hobbies. But I agree with you that a gaming platform or a console is very much more of a lean in rather than a lean back experience. And you're already engaged, you're already about playing, and you're already about interacting with what you're seeing on the screen. Why not actually making this gamification into something that you can actually monetize in a better way? So I would agree. I think they're already making, both of these platforms are already making a lot of headwinds. And similarly, what's happening is that the gaming world is shifting towards the cloud and making itself accessible in other places, right? So there's a, let's call it, there's a two-pronged approach here, right? So it's the traditional media space getting into the gaming consoles and the gaming industry getting into the more traditional consoles. And I don't know who will prevail. I don't think anyone will specifically prevail, but I think there is a use case for each of these. I can tell you, as someone who's very much a casual gamer, if any, that I very much see myself playing on my regular TV or smart TV more than I would play with my Xbox, simply because otherwise I would be evicted from my home by my partner. So just for that alone, right?
Yeah,
and we're seeing, you know, and the gaming industry is something that we're seeing a lot of traction in, right? I mean, it's interesting they brought it up, Eric, and it's the number of gaming vendors, right, who have embraced that change and want to be part of the super aggregator story is tremendous. It's probably that one vertical that has seen, you know, a disproportionate level of motivation, right, to engage with as a super aggregator.
Yeah, and I think especially during the pandemic, it's become like more present. Obviously, with productions being halted and things like that, all of a sudden you have the ability to create new content simply with with graphics and motion graphics and the things that you can do on a gaming console. And I think with that, the proliferation of esports becomes even more understandable because it's easy for you to create this compelling content. And instead of having LeBron James being on the court on the NBA, you can have him on the court of NBA 2K, and someone else even playing it, and getting these new kind of e-gamers and celebrities becoming the new kind of sports idols, which I think is a great thing, because if you think about who is a great ambassador for a connectivity platform, it used to be that the content providers or the service providers on the infrastructure front would choose like a Usain Bolt to be their to talk about how fast their connectivity is. Now I'd actually want the gamer to be that ambassador, right? I want to hear from them how good their experience is. So they are the new athletes in a way.
Yeah, they know. Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Y'all have really spurred some great questions. Our attendees are really, really engaged. We have time for a few here. One from Mark Young. This is interesting. So given how consumer engagement is really currently consolidated amongst a few walled gardens, ones that we're all very familiar with, Apple, Amazon. What's the incentive for these companies to participate in a super aggregator model, since they already kind of own the relationship in some respects with consumers?
I think it actually works both ways, right? Both these companies and others, right? These walled gardens are they've got many gates, so they're partnering with CSPs today. They're partnering with aggregators already because they want to extend their reach, right? And that's a very quick and convenient way for them to extend their reach in addition to D2C. And they are also partnering with other OTT services and bringing them onto their own platforms, right? Like the Amazon example I gave, right? You've got operators today, and it's, excuse the term operators, right? Because in the new super aggregator world, right, it can be any enterprise, as we spoke about. But you already have operators today who have who offer, an Amazon Prime subscription, bundled with your broadband service, or an Apple TV bundled with your broadband service, and so on. So that's opening it up, right? And I think it'll accelerate far more quickly over the next few months.
Okay, another question here. Someone that's also really interested in the gamification for OTT. So just kind of, could you talk a little more about that? What would that look like to get people to trial to new services with that type of an offering?
Yeah, I think probably the easiest example will be the first time you join Netflix. I think most of us probably don't remember that because it's been so long, but the first time when you join Netflix, they ask you, between these two shows, what would you choose? And get you to this kind of, through this very easy questionnaire, starting to understand what your preferences are. I think gamification in general, I think it serves 2 points. One is retention. I think if a user is engaged and wants to kind of play around with what you have, it will get them. I think it will give them a longer lifetime value for you as a customer. That's probably the biggest advantage. The second one is you're getting additional data points, and all of a sudden you're able to create these new hooks with the customer. So if I know that you're engaging with me on kind of these yes/no questions, and I can learn more about your preferences, first of all, I can give you a better experience going forward. But I also know that you are a stickier customer because you are then interacting with me in a better way, which can lead me afterwards, as we talked about, to kind of other opportunities that can be more monetizable and increase the ARPU. I do think also there is an additional layer here that talks about gamification of the content itself. For things like live trivia, sports betting, reality shows, voting for your for your favorite singer, for whoever wants to be out of the house, or whatever it is. you all of a sudden have this new way to interact or to get new data points from the customer. And if you're able to capture them on the main device rather than on the second screen, I think you've done a great job, because the biggest competition to the Domino's Pizza example we saw before isn't Pizza Hut. It's actually the Domino's Pizza app on your mobile phone. So that's what you want to compete with. You want to keep people with their eyes on the screen and getting them to engage and give you more data, possibly even transact and give you more revenue, right? So I think these are kind of the trade-offs and the big benefits of doing this.
Yeah, it's funny. Sometimes when our family is watching, we have family movie night or something, and my 16-year-old isn't watching the movie. He's like on his phone, and I'm like, "Come on, Beck, watch TV." I'm just like trying to get him to watch.
Yeah.
Like, it sounds so funny to say, but that's what I want him to do, is just watch TV. Get his hand or his eyes off the phone. It's interesting. You talked about closest to thumb, I think, closest to thumb, closest to an HDMI that outlet. And, you're right. I think that these two vehicles for engagement really are competing, I think. And yeah, depending on who you are, it matters, where consumers are matters more. That's very cool. So let's see. Here's a question for you. Very interesting or very easy. Someone's just interested in knowing a little bit about Amdocs and your relationship with Vubiquity, as well as with Juice. Would you mind spending just a minute to talk about who you are and
yeah, sure,
how you're all connected?
So let's talk first of all about Amdocs Media, which is the division that we, both Terence and I, come from and work on. We're a collection of units that have been compiled into one, like Transformers, in kind of in the media space. Vubiquity being one of them, right? So content distribution, processing, transcoding, licensing, etc., being done at scale. Juice as a sister company to Vubiquity as part of that as well as an identity platform called UXP, which is an ongoing product talking a lot about the stuff that Terence talked about before, the importance of engaging with the user rather than just with the household or the paying customer over there, and a company called Vindicia that talks about or manages subscriptions and subscription lifecycle management of that user. So all the way from content distribution, partner onboarding, to productization, subscription management, to the identity and how you disperse those subscriptions between the household and between different users, manage those entitlements, et cetera, have been kind of compiled into one thing called Amdocs Media, which sits under a bigger organization called Amdocs, which sits at the heart of many of the world's communication companies, tier one operators, all the way from AT&T in the US to many others across the world, where Amdocs essentially sits at the heart of providing the business software and the operating software that sits at the heart of these telcos. Terence, you want to speak more about the kind of the relationship or what we are doing?
Oh, you summed it up well, right? Amdocs is this big, large BSS company, probably the world's leader. I mean, if you've got a billing relationship today with your operator, it's probably running on Amdocs equipment. And about 3 years back, the Amdocs Media division was formed with the with the acquisitions and some R&D as well on products to be where we are today as part of Amdocs Media.
So I'm curious, given the I guess the place in the industry that y'all are working at Amdocs Media, what do you see in terms of development platforms for these for the various services? They're seemingly very proprietary. If you're Comcast, you get a Comcast box. If you're AT&T, you get a different box. And Roku, they have their box. And it's all very proprietary. It seems like that. If to do what you're doing, you'd want to be able to and allow scale. You'd want to be able to have a development language or a development platform that would be extensible and be something that could be used across a lot of different platforms, and that you could get content providers to write to and to develop on top of, so you don't have to write hundreds of applications to provide these services. What are you seeing, or what are your thoughts about the development platforms underlying all of this interactivity?
Yeah, so to start with scale, to be able to scale, you've got to be on the cloud, right? I mean, to be able to move quickly with agility, you've got to be on the cloud. So we're firm believers, right, that whatever we do has to be cloud native. Okay, so all the solutions are cloud native today. Everything's offered as SaaS, and it's all open APIs. Everything is published, everything is online, right? I mean, whoever wants can go and have a look at best practices and what are the APIs available, how they're consumed, because that's the philosophy that governs the super aggregator, right? If the aggregator has to move at scale, has to be able to monetize quickly, go to market quickly, and irrespective of the vertical of the service that they aggregate, our development and our product philosophy needs to reflect that, and that's what we do today. You can just do a quick Google, right, for Amdocs, and you'll find all the collateral over there, and or Eric, we can provide some material on that later. But the underlying philosophy is cloud native, open APIs, right? Agnostic to what the OTT or who the OTT is, what the service is, and what the underlying monetization and commerce engine is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So in that sense, is Amdocs supporting the development of applications for providers?
Yeah, that as well. I think all the way from delivery to actual engagement and experience layers. Yes, so doing that all the way, providing that kind of end to end, is definitely something that we're active in, and some of the examples that we saw even in the presentation relate to that. Yeah, so obviously the user experience is becoming ever more critical, and we want to make sure that people are using the backend platform to monetize and to consume the content. And in order to do that, we have to make sure that no matter how good the monetization platform is, or however many parties you can introduce, you have to make sure that the user is engaged with them. So that's why we have to kind of connect between the dots, but obviously fully modular, cloud-based, as Terence said. And we want to make sure that even if our customers want to have their own platforms, their own kind of vertical way to present to the customer, we're able to support that with a cloud-based scalable solution.
Yeah, it's critical that it's common across different, platforms or services or content offerings, because it's just really clunky and clumsy when you know, well, this is the way I deal with the Disney service, and then I've got this other way to learn how to use my remote with the Amazon service, and a completely different way to use it with someone's, a smaller, maybe more independent channel. It won't work. Yeah. And that's really where we are right now, as you brought up. Well, terrific. Y'all, thank you so much. This has been really enjoyable. I would love to continue our conversation. Unfortunately, we're about out of time here. I just want to thank you, Lior and Terence, for joining us today. And once again, thanks to Amdocs. So with that, we're going to close things up today. And I just want to thank everybody for jumping on with us for this edition of the OTT.X Wednesday webinar series. As always, session was recorded, and it's going to be available on the OTT.X website at OTT.X.org, where OTT.X members can also get their hands on the PowerPoint presentation, a whole lot of other valuable videos and presentations from all our online events and webinars throughout the year. I want to remind everybody about our upcoming events as well. First off, next Wednesday and Thursday, we're holding our final online conference of the year. You won't want to miss OTT.X at Pipeline. We've got a tremendous slate of content, including research analysis panels and even a presentation to support leadership development. We're also going to be awarding winners for the first OTT.X Impact Awards on Thursday. So yes, it is the place to be and the place to be seen. Next week, also on Tuesday, we're holding our annual holiday salon. We'll have a chance to get together online from the safety of our own homes and informally discuss topics that are current and very relevant for everybody's business. Maybe we can talk about super aggregators there. It's a great way to network and to stay in touch with colleagues. You can find out more about these events and register for them at OTT.X.org. I'm also going to paste the links to both of those into the chat right now, so y'all can jump over right now and learn more about them or sign up at this time. So with that, I will thank everybody for being a part of the webinar today, and as always, we'll see you very soon. Thanks.